This is Derek Joffrey yet again on YouTube. What we're going to look at today is the love it seems our country has for compulsory schooling. And if it's really needed, and if it's really good for our children. You can make a spiritual argument, you can make an intellectual argument. What I'm going to do is look back to when this started. Started long before the early 1900s, but let's just take it from there. And I'm going to get a lot of my information from one guy. His name is John Taylor Gatto. He was the state school teacher of the year in New York City, taught for about 30 years, everything from the mayor's kid to the ghetto kid, for lack of better terms. So, what we want to do is take a trip back to the early 1900s, and one of the starters of our primary education system, and a book. And I'm going to use my glasses because I'm getting younger. Now, we're going to look at Alexander Ingalls, wrote a book called Principles of Secondary Education. I'm going to read the 6 reasons for that, and then Gatto adds why he did have these 6 reasons. They're pretty self-explanatory, but there's a little bigger terms. I'm going to read them because I don't have that good a memory. Now, remember, do your own research. John Taylor Gatto, Against School. Google that and read it. It's a very long letter, but this is in there. Ingalls, for whom a lecture in education at Harvard is named, makes it perfectly clear that compulsory schooling is on this continent was intended to be just what it had been for Prussia in the 1820s. A fifth column into the burgeoning democratic movement that threatened to give peasants and the proletarians a voice at the bargaining table. Modern industrials' compulsory schooling was to make a sort of surgical incision into the prospective unity of these underclasses. Divide children by subject, by age grading, by constant rankings on tests, and by many other more suitable means. And it was unlikely that the ignorant mass of mankind separated in childhood would ever reintegrate into a dangerous whole. Ingalls breaks down the purpose, the actual purpose, Gatto says, of modern schooling into 6 basic functions, any one of which is enough to curl the hair of those innocent enough to believe that the 3 traditional goals listed earlier. There are some real nice goals listed earlier. Number 1, the adjustive or adaptive function. Schools are to establish fixed habits of a reaction to authority. Now, Gatto goes on there, but think fixed habits to reaction to authority. Fixed, no individuals, collectivism. Now, it'll show here. This, of course, precludes critical judgment completely. It also pretty much destroys the idea that useful or interesting material should be taught, because you can't test for reflex obedience until you know whether you can make kids learn or do foolish and boring things. Number 2, the integrating function. This might well be called the conformity function, because its intention is to make children as alike as possible. People who conform are predictable, and this is of great use to those who wish to harness and manipulate a large labor force. Remember, this is in the era of the robber barons. These farmers were making inventions to compete. You had to get them off the farm, get them in school, get them dumbed down, get them on the machines in the factories. Number 3, the diagnostic and directive function. School is meant to determine each student's proper social role. This is done by logging evidence, mathematically or anecdotally, to cumulative records, as in your permanent record, and yes, he says, you have one. The differentiating function. Once their social role has been diagnosed, children are to be sorted by role and trained only so far as their destination in the social machine merits, and not one step further. So much for making kids their personal best. And this is where it really gets really nasty. Number 5, the selective function. This refers not to human choice at all, but to Darwin's theory of natural selection, as applied to what he called the favored races. In short, the idea is to help things along by consciously attempting to improve the breeding stock. Yes, schools are meant to tag the unfit with poor grades, remedial placement, and other punishments, clearly enough that their peers will accept them as inferior and effectively bar them from the reproductive sweepstakes. That's what all those little humiliations from first grade onward were intended to do, wash the dirt down the drain. Now that's Gatto's. The selective function is what Ingalls wrote. This one's hard for me to say. The propaidetic function, Propaedetic. You figure it out. Anyway, what it means is, I still can't say that word. The social system implied by these rules will require an elite group of caretakers. Here's your managers. To that end, a small fraction of the kids will quietly be taught how to manage this continuing project. It doesn't stop at school. How to watch over and control a population deliberately dumbed down and declawed in order that government might proceed unchallenged and corporations might never want for what? Obedient labor. You want them just smart enough to run machines and do the paperwork. It destroys creativity. Now, you need not study marketing to know that two groups of people can always be convinced to consume more than they need: addicts and children. School has done a pretty good job of turning our children into addicts. It has done a spectacular job of turning our children into children. Again, this is no accident. Theorists from Plato to Rousseau to our own Dr. Ingalls knew that if children could be clustered with other children, stripped of responsibility and independence, encouraged to develop only the trivializing emotions of greed, envy, jealousy, and fear, they would grow older but never truly grow up. So, a few comments here. Now go to John Taylor Gatto. He does a history lesson on YouTube, Tragedy and Hope channel. And it's a 5-hour history lesson. It's very informative. This man's a patriot. So why are we got our kids in school? Let me just do an experiment here. I show up in your town. You've never had public schooling. Say, here's what I want to do. I want to take your kids 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 months a year, and I'm going to stick them in a room with desks, make them sit still, and make them memorize things that predominantly, above all, they'll basically never use 80% of it. And that's how we're going to have a productive society. And we perpetuate this by tradition. See, it doesn't matter if I say 2 + 2 = 5 and I'm 80 years old and I'm your grandfather or uncle. I'm not right. I've just been wrong a long time. Taught wrong. So, at the founding of our country, there was a book called Common Sense. Thomas Paine wrote it. It sold 300,000 copies in a population of 3 million people, predominantly farmers. Sold 300,000 copies. To say we're more literate now than we were then it's beyond ludicrous. So what do we do about it? How do you not put your kid in school? Will the state let you not put them in school? What are these tests for? You got to write a letter to Princeton and see if they actually accept test scores or really even care about it. They don't. Gatto goes over that in his history lesson. Now, why do I just go to one guy? Well, I'm not just going to one guy. Is Common Core a mistake? Is it a mistake that Gates said to make our children more prepared for a global environment? Serfs. Back to the Hunger Games, folks. Make it your life. So, can you just jump into business, or do you need a sheet of paper that says you can go into business? If you find something someone needs, or the public needs, you find a way to market it and sell it yourself, you can go right into business. Now, is it easy? Didn't say that. But do you need a certificate from an accredited school to go into business? And if you were told that, who told you that? Who told them that? This is the basis of the modern education system. Ingalls. At Harvard, there's a lecture named after him. So why do they do this? It's management, folks. They want to manage you. Now, why? Well, what would happen if you had unleashed liberty in the United States, where this was totally out of control. Creativity is totally out of control. At Carnegie, how did he get the atheists or the Protestants lined up? Now, he was a devout public atheist, Andrew Carnegie. The Men Who Built America. History Channel puts him on there for you. Well, what was he? How did he get the Protestants in the line? He bought every Protestant church in Oregon. He bought them off. Anyway, look at it yourself. Look at why our kids are in school. And if you don't put them in school, what'll happen to you? And if something will happen to you because you don't put them in school, and this is the plan, what are we doing? So, keep asking questions. Love liberty. And stay in the fight. And man, have some fun. I mean, this is fighting tyranny's fun. Till next time.